We're talking today with the Reverend Tom Choi, who is the District Superintendent of the Hawaii District of the California Pacific Annual Conference, and the Reverend Jasmine Smothers, who is Associate Director of Connectional Ministries in the North Georgia Annual Conference.
Thank you for having us.
So for those who are not aware of the ministry study and what it is, share with us a little bit about the task that was given to the ministry study.
Right. The task of the ministry study was basically three things. It was to bring legislation for the ordering of ministry, for the separation of ordination from full membership, and also streamlining the candidacy process to become a pastor.
There's several petitions in the subcommittee on missional appointment making. There are two in particular, one of which came out of the subcommittee on missional appointment making, and that is the recommendation of the elimination of guaranteed appointments. I think that could have a positive impact on the church because it creates a more flexible and nimble way of making appointments. The recommendation was brought to address some of the concerns of oversupply. We have a great deal more elders in the United Methodist Church than we have places of appointment. And the elimination of guaranteed appointment, along with the recommendations for elders in good standing no longer have to be in full-time appointments, guarantees a different level of flexibility than we've had in the past that could really open up the creative ways that we could do ministry, and it creates new places of service for pastors as well. The second, I think, that could really have a positive impact is the streamlining of the process of ordained ministry. The proposal is to eliminate the practice of commissioning. There's been great debate about this, but in the process, what it does is it really helps to attract clergy who would otherwise look over the United Methodist Church because of the process. That is quite difficult to navigate.
I think that I would add the sleeping giant in these proposals is the renewal of the culture of call. Because we not only need younger clergy, we only have 5% that are under the age of 35 in the denomination now, clergy. But we really need to do that because the culture of call will not only affect the younger people that we want to bring into ministry, but also all throughout the church. I think we have lost, both at the lay and clergy level, the sense that everyone is called to ministry and to do something to make a difference and to be a disciple for Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. So I hope that one really is taken seriously by the denomination. Renewing the culture of call, and you may have to help me on this one, Jasmine, but renewing the culture of call is just to put an emphasis that the call to ordain ministry as a vocation is a viable option for our younger people. It really hasn't been emphasized that much in the past few decades, really, and so we have a diminishing number of pastors, people going into ministry.
It also asked the Board of Ordained Ministry to shift in a number of ways in the way that it does business. It asked the Board of Ordained Ministry to be more of a nurturing body, especially for young clergy, and to really get into the seminaries, and even before seminary, into youth and young adult ministries, and to nurture and foster and raise up generations of clergy to come. The vocational coordinator is a part of that process to help facilitate a smoother access to the Board of Ordained Ministry and the process of ordained ministry.
There's a degree of anxiety about certain proposals of the recommendations, petitions that are coming, especially the elimination of what's called guaranteed appointment or the lack of security of appointment. How do you respond to those concerns around a fear of discrimination or exclusion that are shared by women, people of color? I'm sure there are other groups who have concerns as well, but the anxiety around that.
Right. The original legislation for providing a security of appointment in the 1956 Book of Discipline is actually written in the bishop's section of the powers of the bishop in that Book of Discipline. And so it really centers on the authority of the bishop. Now, what we're trying to do is this historic protection has been around for a while, and it was one of the things that gave us some concern. How do we preserve the historic protections for women and ethnic minorities and still allow this more nimble system? So what we have done is propose legislation in paragraph 524 of the Book of Discipline. It expands the powers and the influence of the Jurisdictional Committee on Episcopacy. Previously, that committee did not have the authority to review and evaluate bishops on the making and fixing of appointments. But with this legislation, if it goes through, it means that every year the Jurisdictional Committee on Episcopacy can review and evaluate how bishops are making and fixing appointments, and that will include, are they committed to open itinerancy? In addition, I want to say is that if the legislation for eliminating guaranteeing appointment goes through, what's going to be even more important is to preserve the existence and the integrity of the monitoring agencies, the General Commission on Religion and Race and the Commission on the Status and Role of Women, because we're going to need a lot of monitoring and a lot of people to watch how the bishops and the cabinets are remaining committed to open itinerancy.
Tom said there was some concern in our committee about recommending the elimination of guaranteed appointments, and I would say there was a great deal of concern about that recommendation. I think that was probably the recommendation that we had most debate on. The folks in that committee have a level of anxiety around the recommendation as well. To see, just because you hear the stories, and we know that while we have made progress, human beings sometimes fail to do what it is that God has called us to do in treating our neighbors in fair and equitable ways. However, we felt that the church is at such a place that it's important to start moving toward a more flexible and nimble system, and that the impact of the elimination of guaranteed appointment for the greater good could be greater than if we had not recommended it. With that said, and with that anxiety, we feel that this is the way to move at this time, and would welcome some strengthening proposals and asked for strengthening proposals around how we preserve the historic protections of persons of color, women, and the prophetic pulpit.
What do you think it will take for us to raise up a new generation of leaders that can reach a demographic that we haven't always been successful in reaching, and even our current leaders, so that the church can truly be relevant? What do you think it'll take?
I think we're going to have to stand up and say, we need to re-envision the United Methodist Church of today and create new ways, truly create new ways for new people to be involved. It will be a risk, and it would cause some of the folks who have been around for a while to step aside and allow for some new leadership. That does not mean that the tradition goes away, but it does mean that we allow for new voices to be heard in such a way that they're really heard and not marginalized necessarily.
Let's say you have a community, and predominantly in this neighborhood, people speak language A. But the Methodist church that's there has a few remnant folks that speak language B. Now, I've got two choices as a cabinet member of how to fill that appointment. I have this wonderful person who's a local pastor who is fluent in language A, and language B. And I have an elder in full connection who can only speak language B. Now, as a cabinet member, the person I want is the person who is fully bilingual, and let's say, and often this person is younger, a younger, fully bilingual person, a local pastor, enthusiastic, energetic. I'd love to put that person in, but nope, I am obligated with a guaranteed appointment to put the pastor with language B. And now, if I have an elimination of guaranteed appointment, then what I can do is I can be missional about the appointment and say, what is best for the kingdom of God? What is best to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ in that community? Well, it's the local pastor. And so if I can have that flexibility as a district superintendent, that'd be great. Because right now, quite honestly, a lot of our cabinet time is spent on, okay, we have these clergy that we're not sure where we can put them. We got to find someplace for them. And I would rather spend much more time in saying, let's get the best possible missional people into these appointments.